I'm gonna do a quick update on the 56 F100. I ended up selling the Corvette motor that was in here. It was a C4 motor. It was 2-port injection, and I had already got it running and driving, but I ended up selling the motor, and I'm gonna put this truck motor. Well, I already put it in there, but I'm gonna wire it up, and I actually got it running on the stand before I put it in here. And when I first got this motor, it came with another deal that I had gotten. It was an extra motor, and the guy had told me it ran, but I wasn't sure, so I had to get it running on the stand before I decided to do anything with it. And I've been doing a lot of research on it just to try to get it going, to see if it's worth investing any more money into it. And like everybody else, most of the important information comes from lt1swap.com. I also, Will's Garage out here on YouTube also helped me out with as far as some of the sensors that I needed and don't need. From what I do know is that you need 8, from what I've learned, you need 8 of them to actually get it to run and stay running. And I just wanted to go through those with you guys. I wanted to show you guys how I did it as far as using the original harness. It's not cleaned up or nothing, but it's cleaned up enough to where it won't, cause a fire. And what wires you do need to get it going. And I'm going to show you guys how I did it. Hopefully it helps you out. If I would have seen with this information, I was able to get rid of myself. Like I said, this is my first motor that I work on. It's actually like a LS based motor. So here we go. The first 8 sensors you're gonna need, and I wrote them down right here because, like I said, I'm no expert. So the first 8 you're gonna need is the auto air control motor, the throttle position sensors. You need your coils. You need your knock sensor, your temp sensor, also called the ECT, map sensor, cam sensor, and the crank sensor. You should hook up the O2s and the mass airflow sensor, but you don't need them to get it running on the stand. Like I said, I was able to get it running and had it running for a couple hours at a time. But when I had it on my stand, I had if you see another video, I had a radiator and I was able to put a fan in front of it, and it worked also. And I was using, when I had it on the stand, I was actually using one of these. This is a fuel injection cleaner. What you do is you put your gas inside it, and then you put you feed it with air compressor with the air compressor, and you set it at 60 psi. And then you hook up this right here, this hose. You hook it up here. See, the pressure came out because it's already pressurized. Right? But that's if you don't have no fuel pump hooked up to it. I have it hooked up to the fuel pump, electric fuel pump that I have in this tank here. I bought one of those tanks with the fuel pump inside it. I got it from CPP, but they're made from this company called Tanks. It's a really nice tank. It's really affordable. Comes with all the connections and everything else. I also I was able to hook it up with the return line. These do have a return. I guess the newer ones don't have a return line, and they use the filter with the return line. But anyways, this one, I was able to hook up straight into it with these connectors. These are for the quick release adapter, and then it goes to AN6, and then from there it goes to a barbed connection. And instead of using the hose that they sell, which is only rated at 250, this is rated at 300 pounds. You can get this anywhere. And for the hard lines over here, what I did was I flared it out with the bubble flare, and then I put the clamps behind it, 2 behind the intake, because that's the incoming line, because this is going to be the highest pressure. And then the back, by the time it goes back out this way, it's going at 60. So I also bubble flared the return line back here, way back here. And I only had used 1 clamp on that. I've never had any problem with those lines before. I've never used them on this motor, but I've used them on others, and flaring them and putting the clamps seems to work fine for me. Let me see what else. Okay, well, I'm gonna go through the sensors for you guys. This is the idle air control motor. You need this one hooked up so the computer knows to keep the motor idling. This was the evap. You don't need this one anymore. This is a big old, and this was the EGR one over here. And this big old thing, this thing goes from here to here, and that's also not going to be used anymore. So you don't need that. It goes to the EGR. Okay, so the ones that you do need, let's go back to that. Auto air control motor, you're gonna need that. Throttle position sensor, you're gonna need that. And you're gonna go around here, you're gonna need the temp sensor. That's this one right here. You're gonna need it. This one's broken, but it still works. See the one? This is the harness, this is how I got it. But it still makes contact enough to keep it running. I had it super glued when I was in the stand, but I'm gonna change that because I saw another deal where you could get a 3-prong one from like a 98 Camaro or Firebird, and you can run, there's 2 wires that go to the computer, and then there's one that you can run to a sensor inside the car, a temperature gauge sensor. So that's what I'm gonna do, but that'll be another thing. But anyways, go back to that. So far we got the auto control motor, we got the throttle position sensor, temp sensor, and we're gonna need the coils, of course, so you can get spark. And then this is gonna be your knock sensor. Your knock sensor is underneath the manifold. And then right at the back over here next to the oil pressure sensor, there's a cam sensor. You need the cam sensor. And this is the map sensor, manifold absolute pressure. You need that too. Be careful with those, I broke one trying to get it in here. So if you're gonna put it in your car, take it off and then put it on after. It just comes on and off. Otherwise it's gonna break and it's a pain in the ass to get the other nipple out of there. Okay, and then on this side, let me see, make sure I didn't forget nothing. And then on this side, you're gonna need the crank position sensor, which is behind the starter. And underneath it is the oil pressure sensor. You don't need the oil pressure, but the crank is behind it. It has to be hooked up. And of course your starter has to be hooked up as well. See, your O2 sensors don't need to be hooked up for it to run. Neither does the mass airflow sensor, which goes in the front. That's the one that goes on your air filter. You don't need that one. That would be this plug right here. That would be this plug right here. No, wait, that's the O2 sensor. There you go. These wires over here, these are all going to the transmission. Of course, you don't need these running over here, so we're not even gonna mess with that. I'm just gonna tell you what you need to get the motor running. These all go to the transmission. The weird part about it is that the mass airflow is hooked to one of these. Where's it at? This one's it right here. This is a mass airflow. And the truck, it runs that way, and then it gets hooked up either here or by the air filter. But that's what that is. You don't need that to get it running. We just want to get it running. That's all we're worried about. Also, the big thing is the fuse box, whether you need one or not to get it running. I didn't want to mess with it. Like I said, I didn't want to invest any money in this motor unless it ran. So what I did is I just cut all the wires off. It didn't have this block or this other block, C1, C2, whatever they are. I didn't care. The main one was here, and I just cut it off. I know that you need all the pink wires to run it and the orange wire. So those are the ones I concentrated on. I got all the pink wires together and I put them and I tied them all together. They need to go to ignition. And then this orange wire needs to go with battery power all the time. This purple wire here, that goes straight to your starter. That's your starter signal for your starter to start. Like the motor does not care where you're getting fuel pressure from. Like I said, at first I was using that fuel injector cleaner. But right now I have it hooked up to the truck, and the truck does have a pump. So what I'm gonna do, my pump is just running on, see this wire goes straight to my pump. So once I put it there, the pump's gonna kick on, it's gonna provide pressure to the motor. And that's all we're gonna need. See, I wanna put it on. You could actually, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's flowing back to the tank. Coming in, and since this has a return line over here, this pressure regulator is going to send it back. Comes in, whatever the building needs, it sends it back. Once you clean up your wiring harness and everything else, you can hook it up to the computer, and the computer won't run it like that. It'll turn it on for a few seconds, and then if you don't fire up the truck, it'll turn off. It'll just pressurize everything. Okay, I wanted to explain this real quick. Like I said right here, this is a little cheap starter from the AutoZone. I think I got it. You can get them anywhere. It's like $5. The middle one is for your starter. That's the purple one. because that one only gets power when you put the ignition all the way on. And then this one here is ignition. This one means that when you're turning the key, once you got it in the on position or you're trying to start it, it's going to provide power to all your pink wires. And then this one over here is the battery. This one goes to your orange wires. It has 2 wires on it because one is going to the orange wire and then one's going to my battery so I can supply that orange wire power, and it supplies power to this whole switch. Now once you do that, you're ready to go. And it should fire right up. Let's see. Put the phone down. Okay, one way to lift. So there you go, and that's all you need to get it running. I did add these fuses for my peace of mind. I put one on the going to the pink wires. I put a 15 amp fuse, and then going to the orange one, I also put a 15 amp fuse, just to make sure that I wouldn't burn nothing. And also, before I even started trying to fire it up, everything that was just hanging here, I put tape on all of them, just to make sure that they didn't make contact nowhere. And that's pretty much it. After that, I mean, it motivated me to actually want to install it in here. I had put that other motor that was in my truck for sale, and I had this one for sale too. Whichever one sold first, I was going to keep the other one. I had gotten the Corvette motor first because it came with the suspension that I put on it. I put this running rear suspension on it. When it came with it first, I was already farther along. I was actually able to drive it up and down the street with this. I was sitting on a mechanic's little chair. But I was able to go up and down the street and it ran fine. So, anyways, now I ended up selling it. So, hopefully that helps you guys out. Sorry about my camera work. I'm using my phone, and that's pretty much all I got. So, thank you guys for watching. Hope this helps out.